most of you know I'm part of a book club that is all men but me. And it's been all men for over 30 years. I'm the first woman who's been invited. And not only is it all men, I'm the youngest and I'm 70. So one of the guys there just turned 90 last week. But the book we're currently reading is called The Faith Club. And has anybody else read that book? No? It's really quite amazing. It's three women who came together to write a book for their children. One is Jewish, one is Muslim, and one is Christian. She wasn't Catholic, now she's a Methodist or something. But they wanted to have a book for their children to understand a way to connect to God that was not selectively excluding all the other religions in the world. And they realized by trying to write this book how little they knew themselves about any other way of connecting to spirit. And then start even questioning whether or not anybody else connects to spirit but their religion, not realizing how much the difference was between their connection to God and their religion. And so in the course of the breakfast, we got on one of the last chapters was on prayer. And they were talking about all these guys were talking about prayer doesn't even work. So why do people pray anyway? Like, do you really think it matters if you're praying for somebody who's in a hospital far away or something like that? And I happen to know because I met this man years ago, Dr. Larry Dossey. He's done research with regards to prayer. But in the context of the conversation with these men, what they were agreeing to was that when a person chooses to pray, it blesses them just because they get centered and quiet. They connect to the invisible, whatever the invisible is to them, and they become calm and content and rested and less anxious. And in the research that Larry Dossey and lots of people who have done about prayer, many people will say that that's true. It's just like finding yourself centered and not frazzled automatically does have a benefit. But in the research that Larry Dossey did, he said there's scientific evidence suggesting that prayer can be a valid healing tool similar to drugs and surgery. And not just for the person who's praying, but for the person you're praying for. And so as we talk about going into the river together as a collective, if we consider the fact that we are in a room together doing something intentionally in consciousness, our hearts and minds are engaged, there's a power that has the potential to allow the river to move more clearly, cleanly, powerfully through humanity. It really matters. And I can tell you one of the reasons I'm part of this ministry for 46 years is because I touched that, I knew it, and I dedicated my life to knowing a collective of people doing something together consciously matters. It changes the world, both directions. It can be bad, it can be evil, it can be consciously destructive, or it can change the world back to natural order. When I think about the things that are created in nature, somehow people exclude themselves from nature. I mean, we are made out of organic material. You know, we are organic beings, and we do have a life force moving through us. But where things have lesser consciousness, they don't have a problem letting the river move through them, manifesting. I mean, my garden right now is just, although it's not doing as well as I'd like it to. I have one tomato on one plant, but it's not saying maybe, maybe not. It's just doing what it does naturally, allowing the river of not just the water and sun to move through it, but to do its thing. And we are designed to do our thing. And our thing is to be creators and use the great power of the river. So in Larry Dossey's research, he talks about that there's more power in praying for someone without specific request, which I found really interesting. Like if you're praying for a thing, it's still powerful, but if you're praying just to bless the situation, bless the person, it has more power and impact than if you have a result in mind that will make you happy. I found that really interesting because as we talk about this experience of the river and letting go of how our brain and how we have seen the world, we have to let go of how we think things should work out, how we think certain perfect people should be in our lives to co-create. Has anybody met a person like that? Maybe you married one and figured out it wasn't true, right? I always love to have a conversation with people who are no longer married and wonder, do you really even remember what was so amazing about that person that you lost? Has anybody ever had that? Well, some of you have probably, some of you have been divorced, so you know. And things change because our idea of perfection when we got married, maybe you weren't that naive. Maybe you got married thinking this could really work. But there are things that change because life keeps moving. And if you're willing to not judge it, you can see, at least this has been my experience with my friends, you can see that it's not what I thought it was going to be, but it's still amazing and juicy. Even if it's a smaller pocket, you ever notice that there are some people where this is the way you meet, you know, we got a lot to do together. And then there are people where you meet like this. Like there's just a little bit of congruency, but there's some congruency. There's some way that maybe you can even find another finger to meet with. One of the things that Larry Dossey also says is prayer is an attitude. Dossey views prayer as an attitude of the heart and a way of being in the world, connecting individuals to something larger than themselves. I think it's so significant to, when we talk about this collective here in this room, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 30 people on the screen. A collection, what's that phrase that I think it's Margaret Mead that says, never underestimate what a small group of people can do. It's to change the world. It's happened no other way. So here we have this relatively small but incredibly significant group of people interested in wanting to be part of this great river of creation. We are creating anyway, right? We are creating something. We are serving something. So here we are on a hot day, able to allow the heat of the sun. I think we get to be shimmering beings of light and love when we consciously live our lives in a prayerful state. And that doesn't mean being quiet. It means playing in the pail, in the water, and enjoying. To pray without ceasing is to live your life.